Okay, now that we have the modified flap with the piece cut out, now comes time for the mud flaps. Excuse me, the mud flaps, the fender flaps. This is a fender flap. It's 3/32 nitrile rubber, resistant to oil and chemicals, very pliable, very durable. And so this is how the flap will actually attach here. And for purposes, I'm going to use this shaded flap that I just did just for the video, so you can just see actually how it lays in better. So the same thing, just this one is a little bit shaded. And the two top holes on the fender flap, it actually has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 holes. The two top holes utilize two of the factory 10mm hex screws to attach it back through the original mud flap to the body. So you kind of can stick those through to line things up. Because what we're going to do is we're going to mark these 3 other holes on the original mud flap. And you're going to use your paper clips again just to hold everything, line everything up. Put one there and put one over here by this screw. There. Let me see. There we go. Now, you'll see that this hole here, one of those holes, I'm going to take the Sharpie, I'm simply going to mark through the hole onto the factory mud flap, just mark right there. I'm then also going to take the bottom, and you see it kind of turn it down, and lining this up with the edge and making sure this is all lined up here, and making sure that your rubber is down level with the edge here. This is the flap. Just mark a spot right there through that hole that's on the bottom of the flap. The other place you're going to mark a hole is on this last hole here, which is on the inside of the flap. And as you can see, there's a V here, and that goes all the way in again to your factory flap edge, and going to mark a hole. So holding it there, simply make a dot through the hole there onto the flap. What you've got now is you're going to have 3 holes that you've marked on your modified factory flap. As we take this off, see, one is here, and you'll see one is here, that dot there, and one is here. What's important about these holes is you're actually going to end up punching a hole here, but since that's right there, you're actually going to put it in the middle here. That's where you're going to want the hole where you have most of the plastic on either side. So even though you parked your hole right there, you put it right there, it can stretch over. Same thing with this hole down here. You want it to be in the middle of this plastic that is remaining here. This one did work out to be right in the middle there. And that's the end of that step. Okay, step 5. Step 5 is we're now going to punch holes through the modified mud flap that we just marked with the Sharpie. And you can do that with a punch and a hammer on a flat surface. I'm going to use it, I find it's easier, just a kind of leather punch hole puncher. And again, it goes right through the plastic, just lining up these holes. And kind of waller it out. So I understood in Texas that's actually a technical term. I got that from Brad at US Off-Road. Thank you, Brad. Yes, I'll give you a plug. And then on this one, again, remember you're going to want your hole to be in the middle of the plastic. Right there. And again, kind of waller it out a little bit. And the last one down here at the bottom, again where you made your mark. And I'll waller it a little bit. And voila, you now have 3 holes there. Now, kind of we're on the home run down stretch here. You're basically now going to attach the fender flap, and again, this is a shaded flap, only for visual purposes. And you're going to use 3 of the plastic panel retainers that come with the kit, and you're going to attach the flap to your modified mud flap simply by pushing the plastic retainer through the fender flap hole into the hole that you just put in into your mud flap. And again, this one on the side will go in there, and this one here will go through here. And you now have attached the fender flap to your modified mud flat. You can see already how much flatter, we'll show a direct comparison later, how much flatter that area is. You've taken that hump away. And we're going to put this on the vehicle, but that's the next step. Okay, now we're going to get ready to reattach the mud flat onto the vehicle. Once you look inside the wheel well here, and you're going to see a piece of blue tape, painter's tape. The blue tape is actually on the body mount, the infamous body mount that some people will chop off or whatever. But I wanted to show the location of it because what included in my kit is actually a little piece of black high-density foam that I recommend just covering that so we don't have any kind of sharp edge from that body mount. If someone has done a BMC, a body mount chop, then this is not usually going to come into play because that won't be rubbing against the fender flat. But in this case, we're going to simply take this piece of adhesive and cover this area right here. And make sure it sticks real well, just along the edge. And normally I would not have the blue tape there, but you would clean your body mount, make sure it's free of any grease or anything else before you put the adhesive tape on. It's clean, but for installation purposes I want you to be able to see where that goes. And then we're back to putting on the mud flap, which is basically installing the flap with the factory 10mm hex screws again. And we'll get those started. On the other side here. Plastic panel retainer. And the other 10mm bolt. Get your 10mm socket. And remember, don't over tighten the screws. Just make sure they're good and snug. And that's it. You can see here, and we're going to show you later, that how this is exactly the location of where the fender flap fits inside there. We've eliminated the hump that was sticking into the thing. And if we take another camera angle back on the other side, we can see better that how this goes right here is now nice and flat and is not jutting into the wheel well. And that's the end of that step. And that basically is the product installed. We're going to show a comparison here in just a minute. And lastly, here's the comparison of the factory mud flap on the right and the modified front mud flap on your left with the fender flap attached. I'm going to scroll down here where you can actually see the difference. You see the hump obviously on the right from the factory, and you can see how that hump has been removed by utilizing the fender flap modification kit. So this shows you a pretty good example of the difference, and sometimes that little bit of scrape is that little bit of indentation there is all it takes to have a scrape. If you have more of that on your vehicle, again, the fender flaps aren't going to apply to every setup. Depends on your wheel offset and a lot of other factors. But if you're having a minimal scrape and you're looking at not necessarily wanting to do a BMC, or if you've done a BMC and and cut that out and want to maybe just put a nice patch over that area, the fender flaps work well for all those situations. So if you have any issues, you can always email me. And again, look forward to seeing you on the trails. Thanks. Bye.